everyone, Anna and Benji here. We wanted to share with you the Landscape Leader Retreat and some of the things that we did at the retreat, some of the outcomes that we had, and we created this presentation for you to really provide you guys with an overview so that if you wanted to replicate some of the things that we did at the retreat, that you would be able to do so. And yeah, so we're going to get into the slideshow.
All right, so here are a few of our learning themes. First off, to understand bioregional learning really clearly together, we'd found in conversations a few weeks prior to the retreat that a lot of us had different descriptions or conceptual understandings of bioregional learning. So it's really important for us to really see it clearly together, understand it clearly together, and just really informative to be in the same landscape too, and thinking about it as it applies to this particular place. So we did a bunch of exploring around what bioregional learning means, and I think we were really successful in that. Also, we felt it was really important, valuable for us to focus on team formation, coming together to represent our varying landscapes, and form a team that is trying to carry this effort to develop a strategy for bioregional learning across the basin. And we are currently have a very active WhatsApp group, so we feel that we're on the same page, that we're really excited to collaborate, and the team did form. And then we spent some time getting clear on next steps. Much more of that to come, and we'll be talking about that in a later slide. But we're seeing opportunities and challenges ahead. And anything you want to add to that one, Anna?
No, I think you got it pretty well.
Right on.
And here's all of our landscape leaders that coalesced in the Paonia, Colorado. I wanted to highlight really the diversity of expertise that came together during this retreat. So we had people from the headwater communities of Carbondale, Paonia, and Hotchkiss. They're permaculturists and regenerative farmers. They're facilitators and healers, and they're also community organizers. Each of them were really embedded within their communities and were really wonderful at networking. We also had a community organizer, Miracle Martinez, come up from Superior, Arizona, and Chris Casillas joined us in spirit from afar. They're both very embedded in their communities as well, and they're doing some wonderful community organizing at Regenerating Sonora. And then we also had our friends from Mexicali come up, and they are in community development, they're in agriculture and regenerative finance. And they brought a lot of energy, they brought a lot of curiosity, and the people in Paonia were so welcoming and so excited to have them here. So they really got a lot out of this retreat, and it was a really wonderful learning exchange for them.
And I'll just take a moment to talk up Anna a little bit. I loved how she made this slide. She broke people down in terms of their skill sets and where they're coming from, and I just think it beautifully demonstrates the variety of different kinds of landscape leaders. Really, landscape leaders, just somebody who is deeply devoted to their place, to their community, are working to bring as much like bioregional regeneration, healing as they possibly can. And just look at the variety of these people. The diversity was just amazing. So thanks, Anna. Good job.
Thank you. And I did want to mention too that Marissa and Jeremiah, who are from Paonia, they are not pictured here, but they were a very big part of our retreat as well.
I think you'll see Marissa in a little bit.
Yeah.
So developing purpose, we core to coming together coherently and forming a team. And we had the excellent facilitator, Eduardo Esparza, led us through a variety of exercises. Here are some of the prompts. What are we doing here? Why? For whom? How? Very important questions. And boy, did we go deep in all of them. What is the Bioregional Learning Center? As we already alluded to in our learning objectives, we really explored that deeply. What are we learning? And boy, is it complex when you're looking at the whole landscape and considering the complexities of community and relationships. So there's lots more that we'll be saying about that in a little bit more in this presentation, but much more in the coming weeks and months. We really deeply explored our values, and some of those are on the left. That was really orienting. I feel like it was really inspiring. And we did some exercises to explore our identity. You see this lion here on the left. We had Gwen read us off a description of the sacred masculine at one point in time, and how it comes into relationship with the holism of the sacred feminine. And so we felt a lot of alignment with the idea of representing that lion, right? The powerful spear, that the point of the spear that helps to do the work in service to the sacred feminine. And we were so inspired that we started to roar. It became a sort of call of our team. Some of us were a little bit nervous early on, but by the end we were roaring with full enthusiasm. And then we also did an exercise where we looked at the full complexity of what it is that we're doing, purpose, like it says whom, how, what's our medium process. And from there, we distilled a lot of that down into a single phrase of what it is we're trying to do together. And that phrase is become an incubator for regeneration, which means a lot of things. We're still distilling that down, but we all felt really a lot of coherence around that particular phrase. And wondering if there's anything you want to add to this slide, Anna.
No, I think that's perfect. And other than the fact that we were really living out our lions that last weekend. So
yeah,
great.
I think that's going to continue to be sort of a mascot. So for us, I think that's fun.
So just to dive a little bit deeper into that regenerative incubator idea, we really identified that as we were going through our purpose, that we needed to make sure that we were weaving into the community a bit more, that we really wanted to make sure we were engaging high capacity community members. We were finding out the potential of place by talking with other members of the community to identify what needs there were and what skill sets and resources already exist, so that we could really weave them together a bit more. And a lot of this is going to involve completing some assessments to identify leverage points and motivators for communities to really see where's the bottleneck of that's preventing people from connecting and from regenerating their place. So some of the assessments that we're thinking of are food system assessments, landscape assessments, and climate risk assessments. And I also wanted to include a quote from Chris Casillas that I think fits this so well, that it's culture and connection before vision and strategy. And that's really what we learned, is that we needed to make sure that we were fully embedded in our place before we started making any sort of financial or action commitments towards developing this bioregional learning center, because we want it to be very grassroots. We want it to be developed from the ground up. And that is, yeah, so that's one of the things that came out very early on in our retreat.
And so story of place is a phrase that comes from the regenerative economic consultancy firm Regenesis. It sort of has adopted an organic meaning for a lot of us in many ways. It's just so important to see the full complexity of a place, to understand how to move forward in right relationship. But there are some some models that we are keeping in mind as well from Regenesis, and really exploring to the best of our ability how this can inform the regenerative incubator. And so just to talk a little bit about Story of Place from my understanding anyways, our understanding is it's meant to form an ongoing collaborative storytelling support and learning platform in a community. The bioregional learning strategy language is not used by Regenesis, but how can an ongoing convening and conversational and sense-making container in a community really hold that in a place-based way, in a way that's owned by the community? And really importantly, how can it clarify a shared sense of local potential? That really unlocks a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of collaboration. To see what a place can be is just so deeply inspiring. It really can bring people together, and really cultivate the will to do the work to draw that future forward. A big part of what emerges from an ongoing container where communities exploring the story of place is you're growing this field of care, and I think a lot of that has to do with seeing that potential. But you can feel that if there is a growing field of care, then you can break down silos. There's many more opportunities for collaboration across various expertise in ways that just weren't possible before the holism of place wasn't being seen more clearly. Also, can't forget the fun. If you're forgetting the fun, you're effing up. Another quote by Chris Casillas. He really is with us in spirit on a very regular basis. And then the art too. This has to be something that people identify with, that really helps them to feel like they want to be part of place. And it's got to be hugely fulfilling. And so, yeah, when we think of the whole, we're unlocking new collaborative capacity, and we're bringing this thing to life. And so, a lot of this is establishing that regular container, that regular place that community can come together and build something. And so that's all I got to say about this slide. Anna, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think that it's worth noting that you mentioned that this is from that a lot of these strategies are pulled from the Regenesis Institute, and they are actively collaborating with different members throughout the Colorado River Basin on different things. They're collaborating in Superior. Benji is also collaborating with them. So I think that this is going to be a theme that kind of continues throughout a lot of this as well.
Yeah, and there's actually one more thing that I'd like to add to, because this is sort of coupled with the regenerative incubator slide, and that is, we're also, because you're speaking to collaborations and partnerships right now, and there is this increasing weave happening with Regenesis, but we are representing the design school, and this regenerative incubator is something that's being explored through Blue Dot Project and the Colorado River Basin Landscape Leaders. And right now we're in the process of seeing our shared strategic landscape, understanding all of the emerging efforts. And so I want to include for a moment territorial foundations that are central to what's been unfolding in Latin America and Barichara. And so how do those factor in? I think that a regenerative incubator would recognize that something like a territorial foundation is essential in each place, and how can a regenerative incubator come into a place and begin to share the story, the need for something like a territorial foundation, and begin to cultivate the conditions for it to form? How can it sort of coach people up into the process, into becoming people who are capable of holding positions in such a council? And so I just wanted to bring that in as well, because I think it's a central part of it. And there's just to name all of the various partnerships, there's so much going on. My God. This is a big part of the work, is bringing coherence to all the various efforts. So I'm good on this slide. How about you?
Good. Yeah, I'm
Cool.
good too. Um, so another thing that we did after we developed our purpose and we got very clear on why we're gathering and what our goal or what our overall strategy might be, we started to identify some goals. So Eduardo again was facilitating a lot of this, and this is a picture of where we spent a lot of time convening with our giant notepad, and this is in Elizabeth Yari's backyard. So we talked a lot about what we're passionate about, what we're wired and built for, what we do well, and really importantly, even though we need to find a sustainable and financial and economic model, we need to always hold that the need for holistic regeneration of the land at the forefront. So we did develop this big, hairy, audacious goal, which is a stretch goal. It's a goal that you shoot from the stars. Or you shoot for the stars and you'll land on the moon. So it's not necessarily meant to be attainable, but we want to be working towards this, and that's that every human becomes a regenerator, or every human a regenerator. So we want to be creating the onboarding process and the orientation to give everyone the potential of joining this movement and becoming a regenerator. So school teachers can become regenerators, investors can become regenerators. To really develop this holistic approach, we need to be able to be thinking about how everyone has the potential to bring their gifts and skills, even though more than likely not everyone will. They might not all be interested or be able to make that mental shift to becoming a regenerator. That's our goal, is to invite everyone in. And one of the measures that we developed for this goal is the number of regenerators thriving. So what makes them happy and exuberant, and what can we do to support them to be living their best lives while also regenerating the earth.
Good. Yeah. I don't have anything to add. We took some field trips. We started out at Night Owl Food Forest, the beautiful project, inspiring project of Elizabeth Yari, and Marta Sanchez has been helping a lot. You see a photo here of Benedo planting an oak in front of a hugel culture. This property, this landscape is really coming to life. I'm actually living right next to it, so I get to go wander around on it quite a lot. And I will just say one thing briefly before you move on to the next slide, and that is Elizabeth mentioned just yesterday or 2 days ago that she was doing some digging and found a bunch of worms, and she hasn't seen that yet. So this thing is really coming to life, and we get to sit on the property and open the retreat there, and it was like our initial big dose of inspiration of what's possible with regenerative practices. So anything you want to add to that one, Anna?
Other than, yeah, it was a beautiful land. Elizabeth let me stay in her Airstream right on the property. So I was able to wake up every morning, see the stars, see the sunrise over it. And it's really just truly amazing what she's been able to accomplish. And getting funding for as well. She's been able to pitch the story that brings in money to finance all of her amazing work here. So we also went to Cedar Springs, with Cedar Springs Farm, run by Jake Tackiff and his family. And this is he uses a lot of permaculture practices, but he also is aiming to make this as scalable as possible. So he uses water management like swales to really bring the creek that flows through his property back to life. It's not a perennial creek that flows through his property, but it is a perennial creek that flows out of his property. So he is actively building his water table on his land, and you can see a huge difference between him and his neighbors, how they're implementing these practices. He's also adapting a variety of tree species. So he's running experiments to see which trees can survive in different locations on his property with different amounts of water, different amounts of sun, and he's really turning this high desert climate into a forest in a lot of ways, and using silvopasturing with his cattle. And when we went there, he also expressed his desire to turn it into a learning center, to create housing that people can come and stay over at on his property and engage in internships and workshops and learn from all the things that he's doing. So this was a really big find for us, that this is a really strong partnership that could potentially be the site of a learning center in the future. And did you want to
Mm-hmm.
add anything, Benji?
Yeah. I'll just say that he works really closely with what you might call a rock star farmer, Mark Shepard. He's kind of popular in the permaculture world. I was a big fan of his, or have been for a long time. He wrote the book New Forest Farm, and so Jake has been working closely with him and bringing a lot of his tree genetics out to this high desert climate, and seeing what survives, and building off of those and continuing to cultivate them. And he does consultancies. Jake does consultancies all over the place. And so he is just such a valuable bioregional learning asset for the entire Colorado River Basin, actually. So much more than just a teacher for the North Fork Valley. I think that we're going to see that he brings a lot of learning for all of us, all of the landscape leaders and the landscapes that we represent across the basin. So it was so good to meet him. So happy that happened. I wasn't even aware that he was here before this retreat. And so, yeah, bringing a lot of people and energy to a particular place just creates the impetus for more to be revealed. So just wanted to mention that so glad that we know him and he's in our network of learning now. This is mine. Okay, land connection. Land connection. It was all about land connection, right? But there was a particular day that we made that our central purpose. We drove up the beautiful Kebler Pass, which has one of the largest aspen groves around. And aspen groves are fascinating because the root system is actually all the same, the same. It has the same genetics across the same DNA. It's one organism, but has lots of different trunks that shoot up, and the root mass lives for incredibly long periods of time, whereas the trunks, the trees themselves live, I think they have a life cycle of like 40 or 50 years. But you're just looking at one giant organism. So it was really fun to be able to share this this special entity with the guys from Mexicali, to bring them up to something that's much closer to the actual headwaters, to these pristine waters. Lost Lake is the name of this lake in this image. We spent a lot of time just sort of meditating with the place in a solo that was facilitated by Gwen Garcelon. And I know I'm not following your bullets here, so we'll have to jump back. But and actually, I'm going to give that one to you because you wanted to share that one, the improvisational activity that Elizabeth invited us into. But I'll just end with saying that this was really a valuable experience to not be in conversation and trying to collaborate and to sense make together, to have a time where we could just sit and be with the place and practice listening and observing. It's such a big part of bioregional learning. And with so many things that we wanted to accomplish, it was just invaluable to carve out this little bit of time to just go deep and get meditative and just commune with place. So thanks to Gwen for facilitating this, and I'll pass it off to Anna to share a little story.
Yeah, thank you, Gwen. It was really a beautiful experience for sure, especially for somebody who has never been to the Colorado River before or the Rocky Mountains. Yeah, and so the experiential exercise that Benji was referring to, it was really reminiscent of things that people would do at bioregional conferences back in the Back to the Land movement. At our community potluck, we had invited a lot of different community members from different areas around the North Fork and in the headwater communities. And one of the things that we did to as an icebreaker to introduce everybody was we asked them, what's your nearest flowing body of water? What's your watershed? And everyone went around and shared it. And then Elizabeth Yari came up on the spot with this wonderful exercise where we all lined up in a field based on where we were in relationship to each other in our watersheds. So we had people up in the headwaters, someone in Superior in the middle, and then our Mexicali friends down at the end. And I pretended to be over in the Great Lakes between Lake Erie and the Niagara River, and we pretended to be the water and follow the flow of the water across this field. And it was really exciting. It was really fun. Benji led the charge with breaking down a lot of the dams on his way down. And and it was just a great way to not only form connections and bring this story to life for these community members, but to also be bioregionally learning together in just a really fun way.
Yeah, that was really fun. Thank you, Elizabeth. She's so creative. And then lastly, the last point, we had one of our sessions on a property that we're in the process of, the group in Paonia is in the process of trying to acquire for a bioregional learning center. It was just really inspiring to meet there and to experience it and to try to embody and envision what it could be. And so if for other landscape leader retreats that may happen, there's a fun little activity to weave in if possible to really try to inspire a sense of possibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I will say that it really grounded a lot of what we were brainstorming too. So,
Yeah.
we started thinking about all of the possibilities that could come with a bioregional learning center, but actually being on that land, we were able to continuously connect to that place and say, is that really what this land wants? And maybe we should be thinking about things differently. And that was kind of a really important moment, I think, to always go back to thinking about and listening to the land whenever you're coming up with how to move forward.
Mhm.
And so this is just Benji has mentioned the amazing food that we ate in his other updates. This is just a picture of some of the amazing food that Marta and Elizabeth put together for us. And that's Marissa up there in the upper right corner or the upper left corner. We ate a lot of food from her garden. Gwen also brought food from her community garden. So the meals that we ate were nutritious, they were local, organic. It was just a great way for us to feel into that place in the headwaters, but also to really stimulate our connection to each other, to breaking bread with each other, preparing meals together, cleaning up afterwards. It really made it feel like more like a family. And then did you want to add anything, Benji?
What perfect time of year to do this retreat too. It's harvest season, so there was just so much abundance, and so we really lucked out with the timing. You could see just how fresh everything looks. It was so good. And yeah, for next, we'll have to do retreats in September every year. Maybe that'll be a thing. Harvest season, why not? Good time to get together. Lots of food available.
Mm.
Okay, outcomes. So a lot of these were things that we hoped for in the beginning. And I think that trust was definitely formed between this group. We went deep together in a lot of our conversations and really saw each other's wants and desires and agendas, and spending so much time together over a 5-day period really accelerated that relationship building. We talked a little bit earlier about the group identity formation. We're all lions now together. which is really fun. And then we talked a little bit about the story, the framing of the incubator of regeneration. Much more to come there. I think we each have a general sense of it, but so many of the details to be still hashed out, as well as I mentioned earlier, seeing the strategic landscape that we share with other partners. But we still feel really coherent about, just the general idea of incubating regeneration. And also, the outcome of resource sharing is big. And like, for instance, Benedo is just this amazing entrepreneur who has had this regenerative awakening, and he offered mentorship as a resource, a knowledge-based resource, but he offered that to the whole basin. We feel really networked together. I just mentioned networking or mentoring. And then also there's this organic form of accountability. We're all looking to each other for what we're doing. Each community is going to be tracking what develops elsewhere. And I think that's, as far as building the will and doing the hard work, that really drives me, knowing that folks in Mexicali are looking forward to hearing how things develop here and learning from us, and that goes both ways. And then we've mentioned the really strong tie between the Delta, Mexicali, and this particular headwaters, Paonia. And then also, clarity around next steps. Kind of goes with what I was mentioning with the incubator of regeneration. But we really, I think, have got a lot of clarity around what bioregional learning means and the full complexity of that, and how to hold, as mentioned in a previous slide, the need to see the holism of landscapes, and also have these economic models as well that come in right relationship to increase the value of regenerative capital, and to hold all of that together. So feeling really good about the outcomes and where we're sitting. I'm wondering if you want to add anything, Anna. You're muted.
There's cars driving by, so so I just wanted to mention that I think one of the things that really benefited us being in person over Zoom meetings too is that all the time that we spent outside of Zoom. So we went out, to get drinks and dance together. There was one night where we were all sharing pictures of our families together. Just we were really able to come together as people, and I think that that's really where I see the so much of the benefit of even just coming together in person, getting to know somebody separate from whatever organization they're in or what group they're part of back home. We were able to form our own group, and I think that was really what was most special about this retreat. And I also just wanted to reference the picture that I added to this slide. This is Benito wove together some grasses and that was kind of in one of our last meetings where we were all together. He was sharing his story and how he just really felt such a connection to this weaving of our lives and our skill sets and our passions together. So it was really quite touching and beautiful. And we all got a little bit emotional in that last meeting. So yeah, it was really quite wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the experience squeezed some tears out of us for sure.
Yeah. Okay, and that's the end of our slideshow. And so Benji, I'm not sure if you wanted to add anything else before we end.
Yeah, I'll just say that there's this panel discussion at this conference that's coming up on the 9th of October. Eduardo, Alex Corrin, who is the founder of Recommon, and myself will be speaking. And so we have a lot of reason to bring more clarity to this idea of a regenerative incubator. We'll be working on that a lot over the next few days, and so there'll be more updates coming. And really, the conclusion of the retreat, I feel like, will be, I kind of feel like the retreat's ongoing. It's like never going to end, right? Like something's begun, and it's just going to be ongoing. So there's something there. But as far as the ideas that we explored at this particular retreat, I think they're going to really come together um, in a way that will bring a lot more coherence, will help us to see the outcomes more clearly on the 9th, and we'll be bringing that to all of you as well. And so, that's all I've got to say. How about you, Anna? Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm just that I'm excited to continue to learn from how this process develops. And yeah, I would love to continue thinking about how we can bring cohesiveness to other bioregions as well and subcontinental scales.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, and reach out if you have any questions. We're
Right,
here for learning for the whole network.
right. Thank you.